Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about this very large storm system that will be taking place across the United States. And I'm really focusing the title around one storm system, but in honesty, there's going to be several of them, with the biggest one kind of what I'm talking about in terms of titling the video, but a very active pattern is going to be occurring, and I do want to make some clarifications from my prior videos that may have gotten a bit muddied. So first off, yes, this won't necessarily be bringing snow to many locations, which is why I'm not calling it a snowstorm or a winter storm. I'm just calling it I called it a huge storm yesterday. It will bring snow to the Sierra Nevadas and the mountains across the west, but that doesn't by itself just warrant itself a snowstorm, which is why it's just a storm. So anyone really east of the Rockies will be expecting rain out of this, and there could be quite a bit of it. But I think that regardless, even if it's just rain, there's some exciting features about this storm that will make it exciting, even for a rainstorm, if you will. So that's one thing. And the other thing I want to say is that, yes, this is a massive storm or a huge storm, but a lot of times people think, oh, these titles are all over-exaggerated. It's predicting some sort of a massive doomsday storm. And I want to make this clear. There have been multiple massive storms, huge storms, right, in the past. This isn't anything, I guess, that's new or novel. It's not the biggest one by any means. And just by calling it a huge or a massive system doesn't mean I'm trying to sensationalize anything, because as I mentioned, we've had a ton of these systems already in the past. There's going to be a ton more of these massive, huge storms, and I'm not saying in the next week or two, just in general, in the next years, right? This isn't something that's a indicator of, I don't know. Some people just, they see this title and they think I'm trying to, just produce the most shocking news. And again, it is a big storm, and that's why I'm calling it a huge storm. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's powerful. In this case, it probably will be as well. But yeah, we've it's not like something that I'm saying, oh, we won't live through this, this will cause destruction. It's just a big storm, a huge storm, and I'll show you why, and I think it well warrants itself. But yes, I think it warrants more of an excitement from the weather community rather than again, kind of a shock, which some people think I'm trying to trigger. Regardless, I may have gone on a tangent, but I just wanted to clear things up, because I think it's good to clear things up when I can, rather than leaving them, as I mentioned earlier, kind of muddied over. Before we get into this, I do want to say that if you do at any point enjoy this video, if you're new, check out the channel, check out the video. If you do enjoy it, consider subscribing, consider liking the video. Obviously, don't do it just because I told you so, but if you do actually enjoy it, then please consider. And if you have any comments, concerns, questions, leave them down below. Let's start talking about this. So I did realize that it is already a bit into the video, and I will try keeping it shorter than yesterday's, 24 minutes. So yes, but the rhetoric remains the same. A very, very large, massive, I would say, again, huge system is coming. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that it's powerful, because just because it's huge, I could be talking about its size. I guess I could be referring to how much rain it could fall, and I could call it huge in that sense. So I could clarify that in the title, but I'm not going to put in the title huge in terms of size. Storm, it's pretty intuitive in that sense. But in this case, it's going to bring a lot of rain, so it's huge in that sense, and it's also very large. So let's start talking about this. The Gfs model, I want to show you. So I haven't been talking about the storm kind of in detail, meaning the timing. I was just, for the past few days, just showing you the storm and its possibility of occurring. But today, since it's been rather consistent in the models, I will start going over the details, as many people have been kind of wanting to, but you realize that it's not because I didn't want to, or it's I forgot to do it. I specifically avoided it because I don't want to be going over details about a storm that may not necessarily be occurring. And when I first made my first video about the storm, it wasn't yet, I was confident enough to make a video about it, but not enough to kind of create details, as the confidence was low. Now I would say it's medium to high. So let's start talking about this. So first off, Friday, this weekend, there's going to be a lot of activity across the United States already. We have that little clipper system that is pulling away across the Northeast. That is going to be bringing some showers. Again, nothing significant. What this thing does that may be significant to a lot of gardeners and people that do outdoors things, which on this weekend there probably will be quite a bit, right? It's into fall, the weekend before Halloween, if you will, if you're celebrating that. And notice that there is quite a bit of chilly air. That's the thing that will be impacting a lot of folks across the eastern United States. If you were to take a look at the National Weather Service map, for example, a large chunk of Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Minnesota are covered in frost and freeze warnings. Yes, it's been pretty long overdue across many of these locations for the first frost and freeze, and this low pressure system, kind of the backwash of it, will bring that. But the real activity we're looking towards is, look at the west. We do have a lot of precipitation moving in. Now, as I mentioned, there's going to be several storms. There's not just one. And look, by late Saturday into early Sunday, we see a explosion in precipitation across Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois. This moves to the north, and this is the timeline, October 24th, 1 p.m. So this is Sunday, precisely. And look, we have a lot of activity. So this will be, a very heavy rain event for many. Now, it won't be dropping, 2 to 3 inches for everyone, but there most definitely will be a corridor and axis of 2 to 3 inches, probably somewhere around I-88 at the at the relative location of maybe northern Illinois, eastern Iowa, and northern Indiana. But if you get a thunderstorm, for example, in South Dakota, Nebraska, this low pressure strong, the water content in the atmosphere for October is pretty high. You will probably get 2 to 3 inches as well, from just one single prolonged, maybe even thunderstorm, which again, it happens all the time, and I think in this system it will be no different. But look, it is very moisture fueled, expansive. I mean, this one's already pretty large. I wouldn't call it huge, but it's expansive. Look, as it drops moisture anywhere from the east to all the way from the New England coast all the way into Minnesota, one continuous stretch of precip. We do have, again, those very heavy rain potential band across Indiana, Ohio, and this is, again, late Sunday, Monday, 1 a.m. This is 7 a.m. 1 p.m. So you have plans on Sunday, Monday across, you could see these given states. I'm not going to name them because there's probably, especially with the small states of the Northeast, there's a good 20, 25 states right there. So look at that location, and here's the time, October 25th, which is Tuesday, 7 p.m. This is now 1 a.m., and you can see that system starts pulling away. Still raining for the Northeast at around really Wednesday, late Wednesday, and now into early Thursday. But by then, that system is out of here. So a lot of the Northeast will be seeing precipitation in terms of rain for much of the early week. And again, I say Northeast, but not the whole region. It will be kind of gradually moving east to west. So just look at the radar and see what that has. Now, you may be kind of focused on that system, but look what's happening across the west at Sunday. So we have this one developing, but we also have the massive one, the if you will, kind of the title holder, right? This one is large, and it's not just large across the eastern United States. It's coming in already a very, very strong storm. It's dumping a lot of rain into Northern California, potentially record amounts of rain in maybe, breaking records for a single day of precip across Northern California. Could be seeing several inches, potentially up to 6 out of the system. Look at those bright yellow colors across Northern California. And of course, there are blue colors across the mountains. Very, very heavy snows coming in. Look at those millibars. Very gusty winds, especially on the shores of many of these states. This system is powerful. It is very, very large and very, very powerful. It won't be, I would say, as strong once it gets into the Midwest. So I want to clarify that right now, as this is an absolute beast, and it's one reason it's so strong and the winds are so, it's not powerful, is because it's over the waters. It has a lot. It's not a hurricane, but it's pretty much as close as a hurricane could get in October across the cold Pacific waters, right? Obviously, it's not going to have hurricane force winds, but the gusts could reach up to 50, probably 60, and maybe even higher in the core of the storm, a bit less towards the shores. But yes, definitely a windy, soggy, dreary day for many folks across the west, and obviously if you get towards the higher elevations, a downright blustery day in terms of snow, probably some very heavy snow amounts, and I'll show you that in just a second. Notice this system kind of falls apart, or you may think, and it does, it really does, and this is now again into Monday and Tuesday, while the same storm is occurring, or sorry, the same first storm we were talking about across the Northeast, this one is raging across the West. Again, this is Monday, 1 p.m., 7 p.m., 1 a.m., so you can see there's a lot of talking. We have one storm going away, we have one storm coming in. This is the early part of next week. As we push this forward, you can see what happens. The GFS is one of the models that's been rather jumpy with the system. One model run, it shows this system coming in strong, which actually it's been showing that consistently, but where it gets inconsistent is what it does across the east. You can see with this particular model run of 18Z, the afternoon model run, it takes this system, this is by early Wednesday now, and it drops a lot, decent rains across the Midwest. I wouldn't say this is a massive storm, but it's there, and you can see that's the moisture from that storm that would be coming in early part of the week. By Wednesday, Thursday, it lifts into the Northeast. There are some very heavy rain amounts with this again, and it does spin around for a while. It's still a pretty significant storm. It kind of does a flirtatious dance, if you will. And with another little system right there, and what that does is, well, it spins away and it creates a very interesting storm. Lots of a lot of cyclonic activity, just spinning away a bit of cooler air, potentially some snow in Appalachians. And again, this is now all the way into Saturday, Sunday of next weekend. Pick your individual state, and at this point, details are useless because there are so many different scenarios that could happen, and I'm just saying that there probably will be a chance of rain around the eastern United States at around this time frame of maybe Halloween. Yes, it's extremely vague. Unfortunately, that's what the weather is. We have the ability to look 3 to 4 days and give you relatively precise details, but when we're talking about 240 hours out and people want details, it's hard to give them. I could give you vague descriptions and not details, and you can see this is what the weather map may look like on Halloween. So yes, according to this model, it would be a downright probably the worst Halloween forecast you can get for the Northeast and into portions of the South and Southern Canada. The good thing is these models are inaccurate this far out usually, with their precise details of whatnot. If they're showing a storm, the storm will probably be there, but it could be further off the coast, could be smaller, could be stronger. But you could see that's the big storm, if you will, for the GFS. It's a pretty big beast, but it's not really what I think will be happening. And here's why. Take a look at the GFS 12Z model run. This is the model run 6 hours before the one I was just showing you. The model runs come in at 6-hour intervals. That's how they come in with the new weather balloon data, and especially the GFS every 6 hours. So again, there's our massive system across the West. You could see the GFS is consistent with that. But look, there's our massive cold front. And again, it does take on a different characteristic. You could see that by the one I just showed you had the system spinning away by Halloween because it intermixed with this one. The model run prior to that, it didn't do that at all. It was way quicker with that system, and it's out of here by Halloween. And it's actually a decent forecast for much of the Northeast for Halloween. Relatively chilly compared to what we've been seeing, but nothing near what the model run prior I showed you had. So already inconsistency, and that is not our friend. 6C, this is the one from the morning hours. Let's see what the difference is. That's into Friday. This is now Saturday. This is now Sunday. Again, the same old, really a few details of difference. This one was a bit weaker in the morning. Now this model in particular thinks it will be stronger. Here's that massive system. Again, it's consistent with that factor that it is going to be strong coming in. It's just what it does with it. This is what it did with it in the morning. Look, the cold front, a lot more stronger than what the current one shows. So again, inconsistency. What it does do is, well, it drapes it around for a lot longer of a time period. This is almost getting to that criteria that I would say it's a pretty large system. It's enough to change pretty much the dynamics of our pattern by one singular storm system. And this model too keeps it around for much of Halloween, if you will, across the Northeast Canada, and it kind of almost does that full absorption of that second one, which again doesn't agree with the one that happened at noon, but does with the one in the evening. Inconsistency yet again. It's showing a storm system just very inconsistently. let's take a look at the midnight model run. There's our little system that is occurring right now across the Northeast and Midwest. This is Saturday. This is Sunday. We have that first storm across the middle portion of the country and into the Northeast by early week. And then we have that beast. Again, consistent that it is going to be big coming on shore. At least we have that sort of consistency. This model run, already different. It doesn't have that big of a cold front. It's more of a southern orientation system. Again, the same storm that's big, just now we're talking about it moving into the middle of the country by Wednesday. And notice we do have it developing into a completely different structure, and at this point you could call this was this is a massive storm. This is downright massive. The one that they showed, the GFS showed yesterday at midnight, and look at that, 9/7. Those are just downright fierce winds, the northerly gales, right, the November gale, whatever you want to call it. This is a perfect storm for that production. This is going to be sweeping in a lot of chilly air for this time. Literally, this storm, if something like this were to occur, would just change the pattern fundamentally of the United States just by itself because of how much wavering it would cause to the jet stream. Again, it does lift out, and you can see it doesn't produce snow for most. That's why I'm calling it a storm, not a winter storm. So you could see that was a lot of inconsistency. Each model run that I showed you does show still very heavy precip amounts, and that's especially consistent for the West. And you can see just through 250 hours, we see a lot of rainfall for the United States. Let's stick with the most recent one, and again, look at that, heavy rain, especially towards the Northeast, especially towards the West. And let's take a look at the total snowfall. Look at that. We have a lot of snow across the west. Again, the higher elevations easily with such a large storm and inflow of precipitation from multiple storms in the next 252 hours. I would not be surprised to see 50 to 60 inches of snow in the Sierra. That may sound unbelievable, but really the mountains in a good winter storm could see that amount. Usually, it's just usually not in October, which makes this storm rather unusual in that sense. So see, you may think, wow, that was a lot of information to handle, and it was, but that was just one model, and this is why it's so hard to make such a quick video without sacrificing a ton of details. And that's why I usually want to go fast, but I try taking my time without sacrificing detail for the amount of time I could talk with. And let me show you the other two models because I have to. So the European model, this is a model that comes out twice a day. It's a completely different form. It's not the GFS. Uses completely different, really equations, formulas, as that's what weather models do. Uses the same data, however. So let's see if there's any consistency. What we have going on right now into Saturday. There's our timeline right there. Saturday, 21st, October 23rd in the afternoon. This is Sunday morning. This is Sunday This is Sunday early morning. This is Sunday later in the morning. And what we have going on, again, is that massive beast coming inland, but also an explosion of precip from that first system. So they're agreeing. The GFS and the European both show the same two systems, relatively with similar confidence, I would say. And you can see that the European does not make this first one as big as the GFS does, but it's there nonetheless, and it impacts a lot of the Northeast and Midwest into the early portion of next week. Now, that big beast across the west is impacting the west across Monday and Tuesday. It moves into much of the eastern, or moves out of the Rockies by Wednesday. And look what the European does. If you recall, the GFS with the most recent model runs swept the system out of here, didn't really do much. The European, it did what the earlier models of the GFS did. It develops it into a very large system, strong cold front, probably some severe weather, a very large broad circulation, and look, it's massive in terms of its size. It's huge, and it stretches from a lot of really central Canada all the way to the Gulf Coast, if not even further, and it sits there for a while. Look how much of that precipitation it could be delivering for that Northeast. Very, very, very copious amounts. Again, very strong winds on the backside of the system. A storm that would fundamentally change the pattern that we're looking at. And yes, it does kind of dwindle and fall apart, but this is a massive, large system. Again, it's not necessarily bringing tons of severe weather or tons of snow or rain, but it is a massive storm just because of its size. But in this case, it will also be bringing decent amounts of rain. And I just want to show you, look at the cold front of this system. So there's the center, if you will. At this point, it's just kind of almost a washed out upper level low, or upper level low. But look what happens. Look how much moisture it's streaming in. That is just a cold front that spans potentially 200 miles in width, and it's very disorganized. But look at all that precip streaming to the north. That is just the scope of this system is, I mean, if you were to put this on Europe, this would be extending the cold front probably, let's say, if Italy was here, this would be, probably Scandinavia, Finland, right? It's a massive front, and I made that comparison just because, well, Italy and Finland are, people usually don't associate them, and that's true because geographically they're not next to each other, showing the scope of how big this system is. It's massive. Now, the European, it comes out twice a day. Let's take a look at its prior model run, and you can see that with its prior model run, it showed that first system across the early part of the midweek across the Midwest and Northeast. So again, that's already a lot of impacts from that. It does show that massive system onto the west. Look how gorgeous that stream of moisture is. Gorgeous from a meteorological perspective. Also pretty good though, because they need that rain. And look, once it moves onto the middle part of the country, this little guy is still hanging around for much of the northeast. And again, the models disagree on this one, let alone this beast. And the European still developed it into a very, very large system. There are differences though. It's more of a singular line, a kind of a cold front. It's really more of a negative tilt to this, and it does eventually develop still into a very large system, just a bit further towards the east. Again, probably fundamentally changing the pattern. A lot of information, folks, but that's usually what the weather is, and that's why it's exciting. Look how much precip this could be dropping, though, in the next 240 hours. Across the west or the east, the northeast, this is a lot of precipitation, folks. And if you're just to look at the newer model run, it's really the same information. Maybe not as high with the newer one across the northeast, but, I mean, really 3, 4, 5 inches from one storm is still, from two systems is still rather significant. And this is a European, it's not a high-res. You can bet that localized amounts will be over 5, 6, 7 inches. Snowfall amounts, let's take a glance. Total snowfall is going to be impressive with the European. You can see the mountains, maybe not as much as a GFS, but still areas you could see. I mean, there definitely will be peaks in the Sierra, seeing 60, 70, but more kind of mountain snow averaged, I would say, is probably 1 to 2 feet for many mountain ranges, the Bitterroots, the Grand Tetons, the Cascades, and the Sierra Nevada. Probably seeing the most. Now, let's take a look at the Canadian. I know there's still one more model to show you, and again, this video is already long. Let me try getting this in under 2 minutes. Let's do this, guys. All right, let's take a look at this precipitation. Let me just show you the snowfall right off the bat, since I already have it opened. This is yet another model. Comes out twice a day like the European, but it has a lot of differences. It uses different formulas, equations for the same data. Notice snowfall amounts, they're lessened across the higher elevations. For the Sierra Nevada, still decent amounts, just maybe not as much. And but look at this, across Montana, it shows more lower elevation snowfall. So that's a difference that the Canadian decides will be rather important to note. Rainfall is a lot more impressive. Let's take rainfall is a lot more impressive. And let me take a look at that. Look at those amounts. I mean, that is come on, 15 inches. I mean, the Canadian sometimes shows extreme scenarios, but really all models do. But this has been consistent from every model run in every scenario. If you don't want to call this a massive storm or at least a extremely active pattern, then I think we're not looking at the same map. I mean, look at that. That is absurd. I guess it's a good and a bad thing. That's a bit too much, and there will be complications, landslides, possibly some mudslides. I'm not saying, again, this is something massive, but that's usually what happens when you have a foot of rain in such a short amount of time. And no different for the Midwest. Ridiculous amounts for the Northeast as well. Let me show you this evolution of the storm to show you that the Canadian agrees with the other models, really particularly the European, that a big storm is going to be occurring. It makes this first one, again, in the early part of the week, very strong. It drags it into the Northeast by Tuesday. There's our big one across to the west, and it makes it onto the plains by Wednesday, Thursday. It explodes in size. Again, several potential low formations, again, probably impacting the pattern just from this one singular storm, which you could already see indications of that as there's a potential snowstorm developing across the Rockies, just kind of in the wake of this big beast and the trough it leaves behind, if you will. And again, lots of precip, lots of rain, an active pattern with multiple storms, with at least one big, massive one. All right, folks, that is basically it. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you caught along. If you didn't, tried my best, so at least it was worth the effort. And that was just 3 models. Now there's the NAM, there's a NAM 3KM. These are all the high-res that are going to start giving us information once this system comes in within 60 hours of our forecasting range, 84 to 60, which is still a bit away. All right, thank you guys for watching. See ya.